Welcome to Past People. To support my channel, please consider subscribing. Welcome to part 3 of the tumultuous life of King George IV. In the tumultuous aftermath of King George IV's coronation, the narrative takes a darker turn as we delve into the tragic and mysterious fate of his estranged Queen, Caroline. Amid health challenges and personal tribulations, the monarch's life becomes a tapestry woven with suspicion, addiction, and an undignified demise. Following the coronation, a distraught Queen Caroline returned home and promptly fell gravely ill. Her condition steadily deteriorated, and 3 weeks later she succumbed at the age of 53. While her doctors initially diagnosed an intestinal obstruction, modern experts suggest it might have been cancer. However, Caroline harboured a much bleaker theory. During her final days, Caroline often deliriously claimed that she had been poisoned, a rumour that many at the time denied. Many infer George's involvement in his wife's demise, though there is no concrete evidence supporting this theory. Nevertheless, the sentiment persisted. Upon ascending to the throne in 1820, George concealed his most disturbing behaviour yet. According to numerous historians, the monarch likely grappled with an addiction to the sedative laudanum. One undeniable fact was that George's morbid obesity, a condition that would play a role in his awkward downfall. In the twilight of his life, George faced a myriad of ailments, including dropsy, gout, arteriosclerosis, and severe cataracts that left him nearly blind. Virtually incapacitated, George had to endorse bills using a stamped signature in front of witnesses, far from the image of absolute power. In the waning years of his life, people begrudgingly admired King George IV, but for all the wrong reasons. Despite battling severe illness, he displayed an astonishing will to live and maintained an unabated appetite. In one memorable meal, he consumed a pigeon, a beef pie, over a bottle of wine, a glass of champagne, and a glass of brandy. One of the very few entirely complimentary nicknames bestowed upon George was the First Gentleman of England. People used this moniker to encapsulate his charm, wit, and cultural refinement, while conveniently overshadowing the less savoury aspects of his personality. On the 26th of June 1830, George IV faced his demise, and it was anything but serene. At 3 a.m, George awoke with an urgent need for a bowel movement, resulting in a large evacuation mixed with blood. The king immediately grasped the severity of the situation, realizing it was worse than he could ever have imagined. Summoning his doctor with urgency, George exclaimed, "Fetch him, this is death." However, the physician barely had time to enter the room before the king passed away. The doctor later recounted, "I was up in the stairs in 5 minutes, and he died but 8 minutes afterwards." The swift turn of events left everyone bewildered. The autopsy, however, unravelled the unsettling truth. Examination results disclosed that the king succumbed to a ruptured blood vessel in his stomach, embarrassingly occurring during a bowel movement. Yet that was not the sole revelation. The autopsy revealed an enlarged heart, a bladder tumour the size of an orange, and dangerously congested heart valves. Contrary to the expectation of a nation mourning King George IV, the response was quite the opposite. As one commentator expressed, "There never was an individual less regretted by his fellow creatures than this deceased king. What eye has wept for him? What heart has heaved one throb of unmercenary sorrow? Well, now I feel conflicted about feeling sorry for him." Despite banning Queen Caroline from his coronation, George's cruelest act didn't end there. In 1817, their only daughter, Princess Charlotte, died in childbirth, and George intentionally withheld this devastating news from his estranged wife. Shockingly, Caroline learned of the tragic event accidentally through a passing courier. Quite a despicable revelation. After the birth of George's daughter, Princess Charlotte, he promptly revised his last will and testament, leaving his royal wife a disturbing gift. 3 days post Charlotte's birth, George updated his will, bequeathing all his possessions to Maria Fitzherbert, my wife, while allocating Caroline a mere single shilling. Now that's an unsettling bequest. Despite George's spendthrift ways, romantic escapades, and indulgence, his regency and reign proved to be an unmitigated disaster. Some historians propose a more unsettling reason for his failures. George may have suffered from the same illness that afflicted his father, porphyria. Regardless of the cause, the final years of his reign were far from picturesque. As we conclude this riveting exploration of King George IV's tumultuous reign, we are left with a nuanced understanding of a monarch whose life was marred by excesses, personal tribulations, and a legacy overshadowed by controversy. From the suspicions surrounding Queen Caroline's demise to the monarch's struggles with addiction and a tragic neglect of familial ties, the tale of George IV is one of complexity and contradiction.